everybody, it's Rick. I am traveling this week. I'm right now in beautiful La Jolla, California. I'm going to give a speech on the night I'm recording this. Then I drive to LA to see some people for some things and some reasons. And then I red-eye to DC for the weekend of the White House Correspondents' Dinner stuff, joined by the beautiful Renee. And we're going to see some people, talk about some stuff, and carry the flag on something. Just before we start the show today, I just want to express my real gratitude to everybody who was so very, very kind to vote in the Webby Awards this year. The Lincoln Project, our production team at the Lincoln Project, was honored to have two of our TV ads this year in the contest that were honored. The Daisy ad from the 2024 campaign, an ad called Aftermath. But most movingly for me was the nomination and the win for the Lincoln Project podcast, and particularly an episode we called "So Much Blood" with Ryan Hamilton. It was a clear and away winner in the voting, and we're just so deeply appreciative of everybody who took the time to vote for the Webby Awards, vote in the Webby Awards this year, and we really want to thank you. Let me get on with the enemies list, because this one's so easy. We've talked a little bit about Pete Hegseth in the past, and if there's ever been a bigger mismatch between man and mission, between capabilities and assignments, it's Pete Hegseth. Pete has always been a guy who was a party boy, Fox News, blowhard, dick swinging, backslapping, hey big guy, hey fella, pistol finger guy, right? You know the guy. He's frat rat. He's a bubba. He's your ordinary goon. If you're a weekend host on Fox News, that might be a perfectly legitimate background. Yes, Pete served in the military for a couple of years. Great. I honor you for it. But leading a $900 billion a year enterprise with the lives of 2.5 million American servicemen and women and 700,000 contractors scattered around the world, running that is not like rolling up on Saturday morning at Fox News to do the weekend shift, having a couple of pops of old Ocelot bourbon before the show starts and getting out there and yucking it up and shooting the shit in front of the teleprompter. We warned you about this in the beginning. We warned our friends in the Senate about this in the beginning, that Pete Hegseth was incapable, incompetent, and that he had serious problems, that he had serious judgment issues, that he had his own mother talk about how he was abusive to women, a history of abusing women, a settlement with a woman who he sexually assaulted, and the drinking. I don't drink much. Almost never these days. I mean, if I have a cocktail a week, it's like a big party. Woo! But Hegseth is a guy who likes his pop. He likes his booze. He likes to get litty McLit. And everybody in that hearing, every Republican senator in that hearing knew it. They knew it. A guy who's a heavy drinker like that, a guy who's an abusive drinker like that, who drinks alcohol to excess like that, very frequently it's about other problems in their lives. Very frequently it's about other issues in their lives. I don't know what other issues Pete Hegseth has in his life right now, other than the fact that he's the least competent, least capable, lowest level of judgment and accountability and professionalism of any Secretary of Defense in the history of this country. And I went back the other day, and I've worked for 2, and I've known 6 that I could say were in my phone, that I'd spoken to, that I'd had a dinner with, that I'd had conversations with over the years. Hegseth is the single outlier in history. There has never been a Secretary of Defense as incompetent, as incapable, and as distrusted by the men and women in this country's who wear this country's uniform. There are a lot of people who are talking in the ever-present channels of former defense people, former intelligence people, nothing classified because we all know what we're doing, about the disaster that's unfolding at the Pentagon. What does Pete Hegseth do as Secretary of Defense? Let me give you an answer. Not a fucking thing. He travels around to photo ops where he wants to go out and work out with the troops. God bless. Go do. Dude, you're fit. Go enjoy that. You're young and you're fit. Go enjoy that. Have fun with it. Okay. But the only other thing he really is working on right now, the only other real project he's involved in right now, his claim to fame at the Defense Department is he is the tatted up, roided out Javert of the DOD, running around making sure there aren't pictures of black soldiers on the wall, or women, or Asian Americans, listed in the histories of the Pentagon, or put up in the Pentagon has one of the world's most amazing art collections. People don't know this, and the entire building. You walk down the hallways, and there is absolutely gorgeous paintings and photographs of American military heroes from the very, 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 very beginning. And I know it makes Pete and the rest of his alt-right buddies uncomfortable that there are African American war heroes. And by the way, motherfucker, stretch back to the beginnings of the Revolutionary War. One of the first people in this country killed by the British was an African American ex-slave. But that's Hegseth's big claim to fame. I'm going to take down the DEI system. And by doing so, what he's trying to do is erase history and rewrite history. There were a lot of criticisms about the 1619 Project, and legitimately there were criticisms of it from a historian's perspective. Historian here, tell you that. Not completely, but there were criticisms. And Republicans and conservatives flipped out, like, how dare you say that? But now, Hegseth is trying to revise history by erasing things like the Tuskegee Airmen, by erasing the WASPs, the female fighter pilots who trained people and who ferried airplanes from the factories to the front. He's trying to erase the fact that there were guys like Chappie James, first African-American Air Force general, who, by the way, just so you know, Pete Hegseth, you could not sweep the shit off the bottom of Chappie James' flight boots. But that's his big deal. His big deal is, I'm gonna take care of DEI, I'm gonna get rid of it. Well, DUI over DEI is clearly the rule of the day. We knew that during the first Signal Gate, the Houthi small group PC chat, which, by the way, is the name of a chat that I'm in, and y'all know who you are, and I love you all. We learned then that Hegseth was putting highly, highly classified information in a Signal chat. And there was a great deal of outrage. And inside the professional military community, there was a lot more outrage that's been reported. Side note, I talked to a reporter who's covered defense a long time, who was one of the people thrown out of the Pentagon so that the Hegseth administration there could put in Gateway Pundit and right-wing, MAGA, .ru news or whatever the fuck it is, right? Great deal of consternation. Susie Wiles tried to fire him. J.D. Vance at the time tried to fire him behind the scenes. A lot of people don't want to report what's going on in the Trump White House because they're afraid they're going to lose access, or the DOD because they're afraid they're going to lose access, and they will. But Hegseth, in the last week or two, we've now seen this new explosion. 4 top aides are gone. The guy he picked to run the communications office, the public affairs office, DODPA, wrote a blistering piece over the weekend about the wild atmosphere of paranoia and deceit and lies inside the Pentagon. He fired 3 of his top aides, guys that have been with him for years, because an anonymous person, and I have a lead on who it is, and it's one of those. So at DOD, you get a lot of young appointees. I was one back in the day, who get flooded in, and some of them get good jobs, some of them get placeholder jobs. Whatever the case, I'm hearing that this is somebody that was put over there basically as one of the watchdogs of MAGA, the little political snitches they've been distributing throughout the government, who thought these guys were ideologically imperfect. They weren't loomer enough. So he fired them. They lied about why they fired them, which is another thing the Secretary of Defense really needs to be seen as a straight shooter and an honest broker. He gets in trouble for that. He gets in trouble for leaking more information on another Signal chat with his wife and his brother and his lawyer. And I've seen some people going, oh, his brother works at DOD. His brother is a liaison from the Homeland Security Department. He had absolutely no fucking need to know about anything to do with a strike on the Houthis. Nothing. He has about as much business seeing that as the guy who runs the Ground Zero deli in the middle of the Pentagon. He has no business knowing that. His wife has no business knowing that. Hegseth's wife has no business being in meetings with senior military officials from other governments in which classified material is discussed. This is against the law. And I know we think we're in a post-rule of law environment, but I got bad news for you, Pete. The statute of limitations is going to last a lot longer than Donald Trump will. Hegseth is an example of 2 things that I think are profoundly and darkly pernicious in this moment. First, he is there because Trump wants someone who is a chaos agent. He doesn't want real leadership at the Pentagon. He doesn't want real management of the Pentagon. He wants somebody willing to go out and go on Fox News and go on TV and look good doing it. He's from Central Casting. Believe me, if Pete Hegseth looked like me, he'd be fired about 30 seconds after he walked in the door. But Hegseth's character, and Hegseth himself, is the real problem. A couple times in my life, I've been offered, frankly, kind of amazing positions. One happened shortly before the Lincoln Project. I had an offer from an organization, and They said, we love your writing, we love your ads, we love your communications. We'd like you to come and do this big job. And I had to say no, because I told them, I said, look, a lot of what you're going to do is management side stuff. That's not my strength. And you want me to go out and pitch work, and I'm good at it, but I'm not at the tier you think I am. And I knew not to do that because I like those people. I still have a good relationship with them. But Hegseth doesn't have that gene. And it's not just immodesty, it's stupidity. Because look, if I had taken that job and not excelled in it, the world would not have been at greater risk of nuclear war or proliferation or terrorism. Our allies wouldn't have woken up in the morning going, oh shit, is he going to nuke Buffalo because he's mad at somebody? But Hegseth doesn't have that. He lacks the character to know he has to quit. He should go. In a sane world, he would have never been at the Pentagon, but he lacks the character. Part of that is the alcoholism. Part of that is the arrogance. Part of that is the stupidity. Because I want to be very clear about something. Pete Hegseth is not a bright man. He is not a smart man. Trump does not like smart people. He keeps them as far away from him as possible. Hegseth should go. He won't go. He's on the enemies list because he won't go. And because he's terrible for this country, and terrible for the 2.5 million men and women who depend on a Secretary of Defense whose leadership has honesty and integrity and dignity and character. He lacks all those things. He's the exact opposite of a Boy Scout. He's the exact opposite of a servant leader, as we hear about a lot from the right. Nothing about Pete Hegseth qualified him for that job. Nothing about the work he's doing speaks to the security needs of our country. Nothing about the irresponsibility and the recklessness of what he's doing every single day gives you any belief that Pete Hegseth should run a Waffle House. He is indiscreet. He is incompetent. He is incapable. There's a lot of the game going on in D.C. right now. I'm going to pull the curtain back for you for a moment, okay? We got a little curtain pull here. Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, did not want Pete Hegseth to be SecDef. She had other candidates in mind. Many people had other candidates in mind. Trump wanted Hegseth because of all the aforementioned stupid reasons. But now, there's going to be an interesting damage phase here now. A lot of Republican members of the Senate are like, Pete Hegseth? Who? I've never heard of that fellow. Who is Pete Hegseth? What? Pete, what? And they're pretending they didn't cast this vote. Wicker, Mississippi, said something to the effect of, oh, well, maybe, he's not the normal sort of person. Maybe we need something that's not the normal sort of person. You had a lot of them who swallowed the idea that you can't deny the president his people. Tom Cotton was a big cheerleader for that. There's a lot of these folks now that know that the damage Hegseth is doing and the damage he will do, because again, remember, Secretary of Defense in the chain of command, if the president is dead, incredibly consequential and difficult job, is a drunk, is a liar, is a abuser of women, is a hothead. As you saw, if you saw the clip of his press conference on the White House lawn, or the press conference, his media hit on the White House lawn, he absolutely lost his damn mind.
This is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me, because we're changing the Defense Department, putting the Pentagon back in the hands of warfighters, and anonymous smears from disgruntled former employees on old news.
And it was phenomenal. If you are a Secretary of Defense, a Minister of Defense, in any country in the world, you would say, oh, look, there's Captain Hegseth. Maybe he rises to the level of being a company commander. Maybe nothing about Pete Hegseth ever qualifies him for any sort of a higher office. But Hegseth is a guy who knows he's wrong for this job, who knows he's fucking up, who knows he's hurting America. He knows he's doing everything wrong at some level. And he won't quit. He doesn't have the dignity or the courage or the integrity to quit. Sometimes when you have a job that you're not capable of doing, it doesn't matter. You fall behind, you fuck it up, you can't quite make it, whatever it is. He has a job he can't do where the lives of American men and women are on the line, where the lives of service members, people who count, people who sacrifice are on the line. He is a grotesque figure. He is on the enemies list for a very long time, and he's going to stay there until he quits. Now, I do want to take one more moment, a point of personal privilege, and just tell you how delicious this is. Donald Trump did not fire Mike Waltz during Signalgate for a simple reason. He cannot be seen to have given in to media or political pressure in D.C. Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, did not want him there. Did not want him as SecDef. No one, actually, except Trump, wanted him as SecDef. It's literally audience of one. Trump was the only guy that wanted him. J.D. Vance and Susie Wiles tried to take him out during Signalgate 1. Mike Waltz tried to throw him under the bus during Signalgate 1. Now that we know that he was sending classified top secret information to his wife and his lawyer and his brother, Susie and JD floated the same thing again the other day. And, JD, they call him Death Touch now. He should avoid because, JD goes in the room. You might not come out after he leaves. But Trump is stuck. All these MAGA guys dug in so hard. He's the best person ever for this job. No one could be better. We will never, ever, ever, ever abandon Pete Hegseth. And the minute Trump does, they're all going to say, this was the plan all along. You don't understand it. It's 74-dimension quantum chess. They'll say, he meant to do this, and this was, Hegseth shook it up, and now the job is done. It's all a lie. Trump is trapped. I told you this the other day. Trump is in a trap right now. He hates it. He's trying to gnaw his leg off like a badger in a trap. He wants out of this. You know what Trump wants to do, guys? Trump wants to go down to Mar-a-Lago on the weekends, play a couple rounds of golf, and go play gay anthems on his iPad at the Mar-a-Lago disco. He's trapped, though, now. He knew there would be a price to pay eventually for incompetent people and dangerous people and stupid people. And the people around him who tried to save him from himself have met the rule once again that everything Trump touches dies. Because everything Trump touches dies. Pete Hegseth is a Fox News host and a party boy. He's not a Secretary of Defense, but he sure as fuck is on the enemies list.